Thanks for checking out this movie review video. So this is for the 1983 film Jaws 3D because, as you may know, I'm going through all the Jaws films. Only four, so it's not like a ton, but I will have an entire playlist of all my reviews on my channel. Um, this one, I've heard things about Jaws 3D. I will say that I like the 3D that's thrown into this for the most part. The 3D looks fun. It actually kind of made me wish that I was able to see it in 3D while I was watching it because, like most films from this era that were done in 3D, like you can tell those 3D moments very easily because it's like this weird kind of animated thing. And some of them were really cool, like the fish head in the beginning was really cool. What else was really cool? There were some other cool ones. The shark explosion though, like I'll talk about later, not very good looking. That was the worst of all, and that should have been the best looking one. But anyway, I'm going to step back for a minute. Let's go over some of the other stuff, and then I'm going to really dive into Jaws 3D, which I will be rating in two ways: as a film in the entire pantheon of films, and as a so bad it's good film, because this one is a stinker. There's obviously a pretty significant step down from the first Jaws to Jaws 2. There is an even bigger step down. It's like a leap down from Jaws 2 to Jaws 3D. And we'll see what happens with Jaws the Revenge. So directed by Joe Alves, or Alves, first and only directing credit. Probably not a big surprise because this film was a flop. In fact, this was a nominee for the Razzies. If people don't know the Razzie Awards, it's basically the opposite of the Oscars, where it's the worst of the worst. So it was nominated for a Razzie Award. You can see why. Written by Carl Gottlieb, who also wrote the scripts for Jaws 2, The Jerk, this is Jaws 3D, I'm sorry, The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour as well, and Richard Matheson, who wrote scripts for House of Usher, The Pit and the Pendulum, Tales of Terror, The Twilight Zone, The Last Man on Earth, and The Legend of Hell House. When I saw the name Matheson on there, I was like, okay, so it should have a good story, because he's done good stuff, as you can tell from what I just read, but apparently things got changed with the film from the script version, and I'll read you a little bit about that in a minute. Apparently it was originally pitched, the idea, as being a parody, and then they decided to try and not shoot it as a parody. Honestly, I think they really should have gone hard at this whole parody situation, because with how bad the film ended up being, it might as well have been a parody. It could have been like the whole Snakes on a Plane thing before Snakes on a Plane, where people found out, oh, it's not actually a good film, so then they pivoted and they're like, okay, well now it's basically, we're gonna make it ridiculous, even more ridiculous, and make it be like, oh, it was a parody the whole time, when really it was actually just a crappy movie that they decided to make successful by leaning into the crappiness then, after they found out that people were like, this is garbage. But anyway, yeah. So Matheson apparently claimed that the script was altered from the better premise of a shark that swims upstream and gets stuck in a lake. Yeah, the introduction of the whole SeaWorld thing is very weird. I think that felt too high concept, especially to actually execute in an interesting, meaningful way. Especially when you watch how they executed it. It ended up feeling very confused, and it kind of seemed like they were way more focused on the theme park aspects of the film and the performances at the theme park, as opposed to the shark. It's a Jaws film. You should be very focused on the shark and the shark attacks and the kills and the characters who are trying to deal with the shark, as opposed to just being more lost in this sea world. That's their biggest problem. And then the fact that they throw in these dolphins and they want to focus so much on these dolphins, somebody must have been a huge Flipper fan from back in the day. I mean, I watched Flipper when I was a kid. I liked it then, but dude, I mean, come on. It's, whew. Dennis Quaid apparently later claimed that he was doing a lot of coke at the time and was high the entire film. Good for him, because he probably needed it at that point. Obviously, that's me joking. I don't condone drug use. I think it's not a good idea, especially something like cocaine. But yeah, I mean, it's par for the course finding that out, because it's yeah, this movie sucked so bad. So it's probably good in a way for him that he has kind of forgotten the film, because yeah, it was terrible. And he looks kind of strung out from time to time. Maybe it's just because I knew that information going into it, but if you watch it, like, knowing he was doing a lot of coke at that point in his life, like, it makes sense. The first sequel film ever to be nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Picture, the Razzies, that is. So in the beginning of the film, they went back to the first film with the shark POV shot underwater. I liked that setup. I was like, okay, we're hearkening back to the first one. And then from there was downhill, basically. I do bet that the 3D fish head was a pretty cool thing back in the day. Like I said, seeing some of the 3D stuff really made me want to see it in 3D, because that's probably the best thing about this film. Also, just the fact that if you watch it as like a so bad it's good film, there is enjoyment there. You can definitely laugh at a bunch of ridiculous things within it. So, but that fish head really got me in the beginning. I was like, that looks pretty cool, gonna be honest. You're fully prepared for the mass of water skiers to get chomped early on in this, but no dice, and that's a terrible tease. They show so many times of like people being in or near the water, and you're just like, okay, someone's gonna get it, and then nothing. And then finally, when you do get something, a lot of the times they don't even show the attack. The only attack that actually gets like full on shown is the one where Fitzroyce gets gummed to death. Like, he literally doesn't even get chomped, like chewed. He's inside the mouth, somehow doesn't get hit by the teeth at all, and the shark mouth is just chomping, just gumming him. Like, the teeth don't touch him at any point. And then he stays in the throat of, well, throat/mouth of the shark, which leads us to the end of the film. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I'm just like, I don't know, there's certain things about this film that are just very much on my mind, just being kind of crazy. But how many times you have people that could have been killed and it doesn't happen is really terrible within this film, because it gets you excited for kills to happen. And for being a later installment in Jaws, they should have gone huge. They should have gone big on the amount of kills, and they should have gone big on what happens during the kills, like the gore, the viciousness, the brutality. Like, there was brutality in the kills, obviously, in the first one and in the second one, and in this third one, they're just all like, meh, whatever. And so many people just get away scot-free. We need more deaths in this one. Another tourist attraction idea with a SeaWorld being built in the lagoon. Obviously, that harkens back to the second film, where they have that new Holiday Inn hotel that opens up. So a very similar idea there. So they didn't do anything very original with that. They just went theme park instead of hotel. So obviously, here's another thing to kind of like try to draw tourists in, and then they would be potential food for the shark that would end up showing up. Or in this case, the two sharks that end up showing up, which actually is not a bad idea in my opinion. But obviously, execution, not great. When the Deepwater Channel idea is talked about, you immediately know that a shark's going to end up getting into this lagoon that they built and wreak havoc in some way. Because they drop that early on when they have that, like, the mock-up of their, like, underwater observation thing at this SeaWorld, which I felt was, like, hilariously high concept for a film like this, especially in '83. So for that reason, I think they should have gone more parody, but, whatever. But as soon as they talk about that Deepwater Channel, and they're like, that's the only way kind of in and out, you're like, oh, yes, this is going to play some sort of role here, obviously, and that's how the shark gets in. The character of Bouchard is obviously the Peterson of this one, because we're using the same idea of having a new business come in, someone who's hungry for money, wants things their way. Bouchard's just like Peterson from the second film. 100%, same character. Although, actually, I think Bouchard is more likable, really. I mean, he makes bad decisions and he's a greedy guy, but he doesn't seem as, like, overtly confrontational with the people in the town. So, Bouchard's a better guy. The first shark attack is terrible, but I like the 3D severed arm. Taking it back to the 3D, I'm liking that severed arm looked pretty cool. Would have loved to see that in 3D, just like the fish head. Actually, that's probably the best 3D, is that severed arm. That looked super cool. I would have loved to see that in 3D. I guess they felt they had to stick with the Brody family by having Mike and Sean kind of grown up in this. Obviously, they focus more on Mike, and I feel like they shouldn't have even had Sean in it at all, because he doesn't really matter. Like, does he? Like, tell me if I'm missing something. He really doesn't even matter to the story. Like, the only thing that really happens with him is he talks about having a fear of getting in the water because of being traumatized when he was young, which makes sense. But then, like, he gets over it pretty quickly by being horny. Because this girl that he's trying to get with is like, well, if we go in the water, we can get a little frisky. And he's just like, okay, I can, just get over my traumatization immediately just because I got a boner. It's just like, it's kind of ridiculous. And that's like the extent of his importance to the film. Like, it's ridiculous. Makes sense that Sean is traumatized from his experience, so he won't go in the water, and you would think that Mike would end up kind of feeling the same way. They should have at least had a little bit of something with Mike kind of talking about how, I don't know, maybe he went to therapy, although that wasn't a big thing back then. Maybe he worked through it somehow. But he's just kind of like, yeah, I know sharks, and he's dealing with it in a very different way that, I don't know. He's not showing any sort of trauma from it, which I feel like he should have shown at least a little bit. But then again, I'm asking for a lot from a film that is not good. They really went all in on the dolphins. That is probably the thing I hate most about this film, in addition to the pacing being terrible. Like, can we all agree the pacing's really bad? And can we all agree that every time those dolphins come on screen, you're just like, oh my gosh, can we just not right now? Like, again, they're trying to focus on literally anything but the sharks. Like, all we want from a third Jaws film is sharks and shark attacks and danger in the presence of sharks. And they keep trying to find any way to cover something other than the sharks, including these freaking dolphins who literally like disappear for quite a while and then just show up at the end, and they're supposed to be like helpful. And it's just like, whatever. Go away, stupid dolphins. I don't know. Maybe I don't really care about dolphins the way other people do. I don't. Why is the submarine they take to go down into their man-made lagoon filled with water? I don't understand that. Like, when they have like a submarine, is this some sort of like thing that existed where it's just like a submarine, but you're already in your scuba gear and it takes you down so you don't have to use as much energy to get where you're going? I don't know. It was just a little weird to me to see them in this like little submarine thing, but they're already in their scuba gear with their breathing apparatus, and they're encased in, or sorry, they're underwater within the submarine. It's just like very weird. I had to laugh at the scene when Mike and Catherine escape the shark by being pulled by the dolphins. Stupid. Hate it. Stupid. Stupid dolphins. Pause for horror hydration. Those dolphins were the worst. I mean, it's probably the best thing they did was like pull them. Like, that was probably the coolest thing that the dolphins did, but hate them. The false shark looks terrible. I mean, to be honest, the mother shark in this, once we get to that, which is too late in the film in my opinion, doesn't look doesn't look good, but looks way less terrible than the baby shark. The baby shark, you can tell, does not move. It's not animatronic at all. And when it attacks people, they literally just like have it ram into someone, and it has its mouth open the whole time. It's just literally like this. People just pushing it. It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. Like, who saw this? It was like, yeah, we can film with this. This is okay. And then the mother, like I said, the mother looks a lot better than the baby shark, but the animatronics are really crappy. Like, they barely move. The movements are so like jerky and terrible. It's rough, dude. To the audience and Mike, sorry, Catherine's idea to keep the shark is a horrible idea. Obviously, you're watching the film and you're just like, no, that's a bad idea. But then you realize, oh yeah, this is a Jaws movie and we actually want this because we want people to be eaten by the shark. So don't kill it like Fitzroy's wanted to with the grenade, which ends up happening in the end anyway. Chekhov's grenade. Just saying. Fitzroy's had the right idea. Yeah. He wanted to do the grenade, and he was proven right in the end. Too bad he wasn't alive to throw it in their faces. Their stupid faces. I love how Mike's spear gun ends up jamming. Then when it's shot, it looks horrible. I think that was another one of their kind of like 3D moments, which is why it probably looks so bad. But like, first of all, is it a thing that like spear guns like that will jam? I'm not sure. It just seemed kind of funny. And then when it finally shoots, like how like choppy and slow it is, it's just hilarious. Like the speed at which it looked like it was going, there's no way it would pierce the shark. I had to laugh. What's the fascination with the way skiing trick? What? Sorry, my notes. Uh, the skiing tricks. The people doing like the water skiing tricks. Like, what was the fascination with that? This goes back to what I was talking about, where there's just like there's too much focus on what's going on with the park itself. Fine to show some of that, like that's totally good, but it seems like they put a lot of that in to kind of pad the runtime. This is obviously up at, I don't know about Jaws of Revenge, but at this point, this is by far the shortest of the three films, by like 20 minutes, basically. So I'm wondering if they just put some of that stuff in just to pad time. And they show these people doing like these water skiing tricks quite a bit, and none of them get killed. None of them get chomped. They end up in danger, but they don't get chomped. And there are even times where like there are people in the water and the shark's like swimming near them and he just like bumps them. And you're like, this isn't a Jaws film, man. Like, this shark needs to be hungry. This shark needs to have like killer instinct, be like horny to murder. And it's not happening. The only one who's horny is Sean. It's just like, yeah. Well, and Fitzroy's, because he is interested in Catherine. I kind of dig the deep sea funhouse. That's a cool idea, where they have like a short little thing where they go into this like funhouse type thing, but it's deep sea, and like the moray eel pops out and the tentacle pops out and tries to grab someone. Like, that's cool. I love that idea. Why don't we have those in real life? Maybe we do, and I just don't know. Someone can let me know in the comments. I like that. The scene where the shark goes belly up in the observation pool, hilarious. It's like they were trying to show off how bad the shark design actually looked. Like, that, I guess, was using it properly, because if in that situation it's supposed to be dead, like it was looking lifeless in the first place anyway. So like, there you go. But like the fact that when it's alive and then it becomes dead while it's in this pool and it looks the same the whole time, like that's just hilarious. And how people are like running to it and it so obviously looks so crappily fake. Like, it made me laugh. I got a good chuckle out of it. So that's why this is like a so bad it's good film. The dead body that pops up didn't look too bad. When the people were in like the underwater observation facility and like the dead body pops up from much earlier in the film, like in front of one of the windows, that looked pretty good. And then later on when they had it like on the table and Mike and Catherine were looking at it, that didn't look too bad. So there's some decent practical effects, just didn't go into the sharks. The Neptune Room I thought was awesome. I love the idea of like an underwater like bar lounge type thing. We should add more time in that room within the film. Stop showing the water skiers, stop showing the dolphins. Put a bunch more scenes in this Neptune Room, as Bouchard called it. That was cool. I want to actually have drinks in a place like that. If there is a place like that, let me know, peeps. Uh-oh, there's a bigger shark out there. Like I said, it's a decent twist. It's a good twist to the film, but the problem is it doesn't really end up mattering that much because it's just a bad film in the first place. And then even when the mother shows up, the mother isn't, exhibiting that killer instinct I was talking about. It's not horny for murder. And, it's just so many wasted opportunities. You gotta love all the slapstick scenes that they end up showing in when everyone's panicking because the mother shark finally shows up. Especially, like, having to do with Dennis Quaid's character, Mike, when he's, like, driving the golf cart around SeaWorld and he just, like, rolls it and, like, falls out. Like, that whole scene, there's a bunch of, like, slapsticky things, which totally feels out of place because there was none of that in the film up until this point. And then they're just like, and now it's like the Three Stooges, kind of. And you're just like, this, like, the tone just shifted for an entire scene. And you're just like, I don't get this. It's so wacky. With all the hubbub about the mother shark showing up, it doesn't amount to much. It just swims around and bites one person's leg. Yeah, so for how much water the mother shark traversed in that sequence, and for how many people were available to be murdered by that shark, and one person gets bit on the leg and doesn't die, ridiculous. Like, how are you going to have a Jaws movie and that's what happens in that scene? There should have been multiple people killed. There should have been so many people killed at that point. I don't get it. I like how Fitzroyce tries to hit the shark underwater. Because A, it's a huge shark. B, the pace at which he can act, like the velocity at which he can actually hit the shark is so soft. Like, he's literally just like tapping it. Like, I'm sure the shark was just like, oh, this guy's like petting me, but I'm still gonna eat him. I'm still gonna gum him and then let him just sit in my mouth for whatever reason. The shot from inside the mouth once Fitzroyce gets pulled in, and him getting gummed, I laughed at that too. I was just like, what is the purpose of this? Because you can tell that like he's nowhere near the actual teeth. He's just getting like gummed, and he's just sitting there. It went on too long. If it was a lot quicker, you may be able to like trick people into thinking he's actually getting like chomped by the teeth. But for how long they show it, you just have all the time in the world to see how terrible it looks. But nowadays, that adds to the so bad it's good aspect. The slow motion shot of the shark ramming the glass. Hilarious. Obviously, that's supposed to be another one of those 3D moments. Bet it was kind of cool. But now, watching it now, it's just funny. Like, people's faces in slow motion and the shark coming in slow motion, especially because of how bad the shark looks. Like, it makes it look worse because you have so much time to focus on it. Yeah, funny. I love that the shark doesn't swallow Fitzroyce at all, that he's just sitting in the mouth, yes, but obviously that's how they get then the opportunity when it's finally stuck because it rammed into the facility to get that hook, bend it, and like pull the pin because he just so happens to be still holding this grenade, which I call BS on that. There's no way. Like, he had this death grip on this grenade somehow, and then they were able to pull the pin like that. I mean, come on. Because apparently the shark can only like open its mouth like a little bit and not at a fast pace. Like, it's the most lethargic shark I've ever seen in my life. And they didn't hit it with tranquilizers or anything. I'm just like, wait, did they? I think they were going to. But anyway. The 3D explosion is the worst 3D shot in the film, unfortunately. That should have been their big moment. That's where they should have been like all sorts of guts and stuff. But literally, like, the 3D things are just like bones. Like 2 sections of bones. It should have been like 3D guts, like coming at people and not just like staying on the screen, but just like fly at people and then go off the screen. Like, that would have been cool. But just to have like 2 pieces of bone come out and then just stay there, it's like, okay. And then, yep, better end this film with the stupid dolphins. I don't understand. Like, just end it with the explosion and be done with it. And it just like explosion and then like Mike and Catherine like hug each other. Done. We don't need them looking for the dolphins and then this prolonged scene of them thinking maybe one of the dolphins is dead, and then at the end they like jump up and there's like a freeze frame on the 2 of them in the middle and the dolphins on either side like mid jump. Ooh, terrible, dude. Razzie for sure. Like I said, the pacing is terrible. The pacing is terrible. They need a lot more shark action and to fully show the shark attacks. That's what they really, really needed. Like, at first I was like, well, maybe they're not showing the full shark attacks because they know how bad the sharks look. But no, that ends up not being it. Because then later on in the film, they're like intentionally showing how terrible the shark looks. So it's like, fine, we all know how bad it looks. Then just like give us better kills then. Let's get into it. What this movie should have been, this was my idea, is the creepy looking SeaWorld orca mascot snapping and going on a killing spree. That's what it should have been. Did anyone else notice that really creepy looking orca mascot? It was like a pretty quick scene, but like looked really creepy, and I was just like, man, What would be so much better story-wise right now is if that thing just snapped and started murdering people in this amusement park. You know, the mental gymnastics my brain does when I'm watching films like this. It's just a little glimpse into it. But anyway, so rating this two ways. So as a film itself, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, it's a 1-star film. But as a so bad it's good film, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I feel like I'm enough in the middle that like I probably don't want to watch it again, but I would watch it with someone who's never seen it before, so I can laugh at it a little bit. That's kind of where I fall. But would love to know your opinions on Jaws 3D. Go ahead and put it in the comments. We can talk about it, or just horror in general, whatever. Also, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't, because that's your best way to repay me for watching garbage like this and doing reviews on it. Like, literally, my soul is being crushed. I need you to help me out and subscribe to this channel because of this. Also, hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing a decent amount each week, so putting in work. But regardless, thank you very much for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.